Hello guys, right, let's take a look at the 2346-03 version from September 2023. So if you registered after the 4th of September 2023, we're just going to have a quick look at the criteria, just so you guys know what is involved, right? So let's have a look then, shall we? So Unit 102, this is done by observation. That means you will be watched on site. This will be done on two occasions. The first occasion will be an actual on-site observation, and the second occasion could be or can be a Zoom or Google Meet or Teams observation, but you will cover Unit 102 by observation only on two separate occasions. Okay. You're going to cover the following criteria. Now, we sometimes have to separate the NVQ from the real world. We get a lot of people saying, I don't do risk assessments, don't do method statements, blah, 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 right? But guys, if it's on the criteria, you will do it for the NVQ. And if you don't do it, you will need to make one, okay? So it's pointless whinging about it. You just have to do it, and that's the end of that, okay? So risk assessments, you're going to look at that. Method statements, now. With risk assessments, the things we're assessing is, do you actually know what a risk assessment is? Do you know what the 5 steps are for a risk assessment? Have you built your risk assessment correctly? Right? So stuff like that you're going to need to know to get right in order to pass this little bit, right? Be surprised the amount of people don't know how many steps there are to a risk assessment, right? I just said 5. Hazards and unsafe situations, so you're going to identify hazards and how you would mitigate the hazards. This one here, potentially hazardous handling of potentially hazardous tools, materials, or equipment. So something like maybe cost you're going to look at for that, right? Control of substances hazardous to health. High risk hazards, that'll probably be just discussed. We're hoping we never find any really, but and apply measures to control health and safety measures. So, things like select and use the correct PPE. Now, with the PPE, guys, you don't need to wear full PPE all the time. You need to select the correct PPE as per your risk assessment. So, for example, if you're on a big site and you've got 5-point PPE policy in place, then obviously you'd have your 5-point PPE. If you're in an office doing some testing, you're probably just going to need your work boots or work shoes and knee pads. But work boots are a minimum PPE. If you ever go on an assessment or any photographs or any evidence you produce, you will have to have minimum work boots on. No sandals, no flip-flops, no bare feet, no socks, no flippers, no anything else apart from work boots, okay, or work shoes. Have to be steel toe cap work shoes. You're going to look at site conduct. You're going to look at tools. So maybe like power tools and manufacturer's instructions and safe use of power tools, storage of tools in work when you're actually working, where you store them. Any warning notices, right? Mandatory instructions and prohibition notices. So know your signs, know your notices, and make sure you've got them displayed, ready for the assessor. Guards, barriers, stopping unauthorized people entering your work space, okay? Access equipment, you're going to be assessed on 2 access equipments. So you've got ladder, tower, scaffold, or MOOP, step ladder, and platform. So you need to produce 2 of those, okay, for your on-site observation. And you also need to talk about one of these acts. So you need to pick one of these and write maybe a paragraph about it, and you'll need to discuss this with your assessor, okay? They're quite hot on this, so don't forget to do that bit, because you don't want to fail an assessment just because of that, right? So that's your observation out of the way. In your observation or in maybe your assessment or professional discussion, you're going to cover this unit. Unit 106, organise and oversee the working environment. Again, it's going to be assessed on 2 separate occasions. It can be observation, professional discussion, or in your job write-up, okay? But it's going to be observed twice. And this is more organise and oversee. So this, again, we're going to look at plans, drawings, and designs. We're going to look at functional information for the job, communications, so communicating in a timely and professional manner. We're going to look at things like, risk assessments will have already been covered, so we don't really need to worry about that. We are going to look at different types of communications in work, so face-to-face, site meetings, toolbox talks, WhatsApp, groups, emails, texts, things like that, right? And working effectively with colleagues, you know, being a good worker. Why you know you have to have a good standard of work. We're gonna look at program of works. We're going to look at industry working practices. We're going to look at health and safety requirements, cost effectiveness. So this is all about overseeing this one, right? So this is your really abilities as a supervisor. So when you're thinking about being a supervisor, we're going to take all these into account, right? How you know, why is it that you work to the best of your own ability, and why is it important that your operatives are working cost effectively, and what environmental considerations are taken, measuring and marking, for example, not wasting. Make sure you produce a program of work. Okay, again, this is one thing that people don't do, but look, it says there in the criteria: produce a simple program of work. So make sure that you know what a program of work is and you produce one for your assessments. Okay. And this one here is all about delivery of materials, or you know, delivery notes, materials being British standard, manufacturer's instructions, and relaying those manufacturer's instructions to people. Okay, and then the range you'll naturally sort of get materials, fixings, plant, labour, and tools. They're going to be in with all this stuff here, right? Unit 109 is all about planning and first fix. Okay. So again, it's like the right PP for the job, selecting the correct tools for the job, any pre-work damage, you know, site readiness to begin work. Do you have to have a permit for work, for example? Materials are free from damage, so you're just checking your stuff before you sort of put it on, right? External influences, IP ratings. Make sure you know what is an IP rating, how an IP code works, and in particular, what does IP mean? And I know, and I'll tell you what it doesn't mean is is ingress protection. It doesn't mean that. It means something else. Look at page 48 of your regs book or appendix L of your on-site guide to find out what IP actually stands for, guys. You'd be surprised. Drawings, designs, manufacturer's instructions, all over there, right? Now then, the cables, you've got to be installing 5 sets of cables, right? So 5 cables you need to produce from this list. You've got singles, multi-core, twin and earth, mineral insulated, fire performance, SWA, SY, data, or DC cable. So you've got to install 5 cables for your NVQ, okay? Containments, you have got to install either PVC trunking or PVC conduit. This is where the NVQs change now, right? It's not PVC trunking and PVC conduit. It's PVC trunking or PVC conduit, okay? Metal conduit or metal trunking, one or the other. And then one from the following: tray, basket, ladder, ducting, modular, or bus bar. So that's your containments. Either or PVC, either or metal, and then one from the following, right? So it's 3 containments in all. So it's 5 cables, 3 containments. And then 5 of these isolators, sockets, DBs, overcurrent protective devices, lights, data outlets, Wi-Fi router, EV charge point, or smart lighting, heating, smart camera, things like that, right? So it's 5 from those that you need to, accessories you need to fix, right? And you need to install them correctly in accordance with BSM 671, in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Okay. So that is your that's your cables, if you like, right? Your cables, containments, and accessories that you need to put in, right? So that is that. Unit testing is what it is. Need to produce full test, safe isolation. Guys, listen, this is crazy, right? The amount of people that come on an assessment and don't lock off, you fail. Remember, ask permission, knock off, lock off, warning tag, key in pocket, proof, test proof, right? Full and correct safe isolation procedure. Visual inspections, produce a schedule of inspections and highlight 4 from that schedule of inspections that you're going to inspect: meter tail, service head, security fixings, IP ratings, whatever. Just make sure you've got at least 4 inspections to cover, right? Select the correct test instrument for the test you're doing. Produce an electrical installation certificate, schedule of inspection, schedule of test results, minor work certificate. So again, even if it's not related to the job, you must make sure that you produce that paperwork, okay? Carry out all these tests. So we're going to do continuity, insulation, resistance, polarity, earth fault loop impedance, prospective fault current, RCD testing, and functional testing. Clients and colleagues are going to cover naturally. Fault finding. Again, we need a risk assessment for fault finding. We need the safe isolation procedure for each fault. And then we've got to assess 3 from the following. So these are the faults, right? You've got loss of supply, overload, short circuit, earth fault, incorrect phase rotation, high resistance joints, component faults, open circuit, or signal faults. 3 from those lists there, right, of faults, guys. What I will say with this evidence, if you're producing photographs, for example, you need to make a story of the job, you know. So if it's a short circuit fault, for example, it's going to be the whole story from start to finish, isn't it, really? You know, like it's tripping off. So you called out, do your risk assessment, MCB's down, safe isolation, insulation resistance test, and then bad reading, finding the fault, find it, show the actual fault. Don't forget to show the fault. Fix the fault, show it fixed, retest, do not forget to retest. So you've then got a full story of what happened, and just do that for each fault, I would. And using 3 of the following testers. So for example, right, if it was a loss of supply, you'd use your voltage indicator, blown fuse, and then a fuse connection unit. And as I've said, if it was a short circuit or earth fault, you'd do an insulation resistance test. The amount of you guys that don't know the difference between a short circuit and an earth fault is quite frightening. Just remember, short circuit is 2 live conductors touching. So we've got, imagine a line and a neutral, they're 2 live conductors and they touch. That's a short circuit. If you've got a line conductor and it's touching at either a neutral or a CPC, that's an earth fault. That's the definition of it. So an earth fault isn't, for example, an open circuit to an earth rod or something like that. It's not. So that's what a short circuit, that's what an earth fault and short circuit is. A phase rotation fault. And obviously, if you've got a phase rotation fault, you use a phase rotation meter. So you're looking for 3 different faults using 3 different testers, and that's how they built it, right? And all this kind of stuff you're kind of gonna do naturally as if you make a story of a fault, you're gonna cover all these. And look, this one is about the retest. So again, don't forget that. And then termination of conductors unit, new unit there, 118. So this is leading on from unit 109. So this is termination. And again, this one really is making sure your terminations are electrically and mechanically sound, making sure you're using your 1000-volt VDE rated screwdrivers. I tell you what, guys, there's a reason why they're 1000 volts as well, which some of you might not know. But I'll give you that information if you want. So they're 1000 volts because of what we work to. Extra low voltage, 0 to 50 volts. Low voltage, 50 to 1000. And anything over 1000 volts is high voltage. So we use VDE to 1000 because of that. Great to bring up in your assessment, by the way. So torque screwdrivers, VDE rated equipment, tug tests. And then, you'd identify a loose connection, wouldn't you, by doing a continuity test if the reading was a bit higher. Cable identification, again, the amount of you guys, right, that are working on 3-phase, but you sleeve L2 and L3 brown. Well, that's just telling you it's L1. L1's brown, L2's black, L3's grey, right? Don't need to sleeve 3-phase stuff, guys. Loads of people fail AM2 because of that. And again, this is terminating 5 cables again. So the cables you first fixed earlier, look, we're just terminating these. 5 from these, you're just second fixing, and then termination types 2, screw in, non-screw compression, dead easy in it, Wago blocks. That's it. That's all there is to it. So that is the 2346-03 as of September 2023. Anyone joining now or anyone who hasn't joined, that's the criteria. That's what you've got to hit. I hope this video has been helpful, guys, and giving it to you for free just because it's always good to have a little peek behind the curtain and see what's what. And I get asked all the time what's involved in the 2346-03. That's it. So